Well, hi everybody, I'm David Lisot. We're here in Long Beach, California for a memorial for Selby Ungar, longtime friend who passed away recently. He was the vice president of the National Silver Dollar Roundtable, the king of Carson City Dollars, and there's so much more.
Well, it started way back, probably going back into the 70s when I was about 16 years old. I ran into Selby at a local coin show and we hit it off, and I was this little kid just loving the hobby of coins, and it was like he immediately took me under his wing, and from then on I felt like he became a second father to me in the business.
I remember Selby since I'm 4 years old. That's when he came into my sister's life and came into my life. And I don't know anyone in this world that was a better person than he was.
Selby was the biggest cheerleader that you could have ever had for the National Silver Dollar Roundtable. He was actually our vice president for 18 years. Selby is going to be sorely missed. He has been an absolute joy and so honorable to have him on our board. He was the biggest cheerleader for sure. He got us more members and life members than anyone else on the entire board.
How did he become known as the king of Carson City?
You don't know that?
Oh, I do know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he used to deal with Carson City Dollars before it became very popular, and then that's kind of
Selby actually also kept the Carson Cities originated. He kept them in the government holders, where the rest of us were popping them out and selling them in tubes, where he was more staying authentic with them.
Well, first of all, I want to point out that I know Selby since 1978. Probably, there's only a handful of us here that go back that far with him. And he was always an absolute gentleman, always extremely dapper with the suit and tie. I mean, one of the guys that, really stood out as kind of an elegant person, which especially back then in the 80s and so on, that was not commonplace.
I met Selby when we were both boxers in New York at the Gramercy AC, and Selby was a few years older than me, and 2 weight classes above me. And I was a very slick boxer, but Selby was a terrific knockout puncher. And many times I watched him flatten people in the gym, including Floyd Patterson.
I could talk a lot about Selby and his accomplishments, but as a man, he was a true gentleman, an excellent dresser. But one of the things that I always think about is when I do think about Selby, he's one of those people that just brings a smile to my face.
Everybody knew Selby. I knew Selby for the last 35 years. The CC King, the most dapper coin dealer in the coin business. I always liked his sleeve when he put his sleeve over his coat and walked around like he was the mayor or the governor or the president.
I've known Selby back, I guess, when we first started the coin shows, when I started when I was 14 years old, and 1982, 1981, when him and Lenny were partners with the jewelry, and they had the coin shop in New York, and we go way back. I mean, I spent a lot of time with Selby.
I met Selby when I was 15 years old. We lived in the same neighborhood, and I always thought he was the member of the 5 families. And in Brooklyn, I thought he was the head of the Genovese crime family. But I found out later he was a Jewish kid from the Lower East Side. So at that point, I was allowed to interact with him.
I never knew Selby until probably the last 15 years or so, when I moved to California. But prior, I worked for a coin exchange in Pennsylvania, and we used to ship him Carson City Silver Dollars all the time. And I always wondered who is the king of Carson City?
Selby came to me the first time when I was running for the A&A board, and at that time it was he saw that I wanted to give back to an organization, and he said, you know, you should look at the NSDR. Have you thought about the NSDR? And I didn't know what the NSDR was, National Silver Dollar Roundtable, and so I looked into it. He brought me to one of the breakfast meetings, and he sponsored me into the NSDR.
I've known Selby for probably 45 years, and he's just was a wonderful person. He always had a smile on his face, and it was always had your back. So if you ever had a need for a friend, he was the one to go to.
I met Selby back in 1976 when he started dealing in Carson Cities. And I always had a passion for Carson Cities since when I was 19 in 73, the government started issuing them, so I fell in love with them at the time. And Selby used to set up at shows and have full display cases full of Carson Cities. And he was so easy to talk to about Carson Cities, very personable man.
That Selby was so loved by so many people, and that doesn't come as anything else other than he touched people. He was involved with people. He shared his life with people. So we'll all remember Selby Ungar.
One story that I remember was in the '86 when the Gold Eagles came out, and I went to the Atlanta, Maryland show, and I was in Lanham, John was in another place, and we were all buying the American Eagles, and so I bought a big deal off of Selby. It was a lot of fun, and so he was a wheeler dealer, and it was a good experience.
I knew Selby very well. I go back to the days of when he first started, when he was with Lenny and working in Lenny's shop. They were called Lenny and Squiggy, and they used to fight all the time. You know, it was hilarious to watch the two work together.
Yeah, I had really the distinct honor of not being in the coin business. Okay, so I saw a totally different side of Selby. Being my brother-in-law, he was like an unbelievable person. He had a class all of his own, a style all of his own. Wherever he went, he lit up the room, not just in the coin business, but with his friends, with his family. And you knew that in your heart, that Selby was always there for you. He'd always stand behind you. He was always had your backside.
I just want to say I miss you, Dad. I love you. And that's all I can say.
I miss you, I love you, and I always will.
And if you could sum Selby up in one sentence, what would you say?
Selby, the king. That's it.
The best person I ever knew.
Oh gosh.
Best father.
The best dad, the best friend. Just great at everything, loved everybody, loved the coin business, and we miss him every minute.
We love you, Selby.
Mm-hmm.